So, last time I made a few upgrades to the desert, both visually and gameplay wise. This time I decided to do something completely different. I added a canyon. Before I could even start building it, I had one problem to solve. The old spawner spawned every tile separately, but for the canyon I needed certain tiles to always stay together. So, the obvious solution was to rewrite the whole spawner and turn it into a chunk system. Now, I could tell it to spawn multiple tiles together in whatever order I wanted. And it worked. Until I added more chunks. The more I added, the worse it got. Luckily, after way too much debugging, it turned out to be a simple problem with the array storing all the chunks. With that finally working, I could move on to Blender. Unfortunately, the recording got lost, but the model survived. The first thing I made was this ramp to give the path a bit of elevation. Then, I added some basic floor pieces and tested everything with the new chunk system. There were a few small gaps between platforms, but nothing too scary. Once these were fixed, it was finally time to build the rest of the canyon. Of course, it couldn't be that easy. A few more problems showed up, like this transition tile deciding it wanted to be somewhere else. But after a bit more tweaking, it works. Well, about 90% of the time. Great, now the canyon was finally standing, but it still felt way too empty. So I started throwing in some rocks, stretching them, moving them around, and after playing with them for a while, and borrowing a few assets from the desert, I had the first batch of obstacles. One thing still bothered me though. Every obstacle was completely static, so I decided to add some wind, which also gave me another chance to show off my incredible artistic skills in Krita. After spending way too much time playing with the particle settings, I somehow managed to get it to work. The first version was a bit hard to see, so I drew another one with more saturated colors. Now, whenever you're in a windy area, it slowly pushes you towards the edge of the canyon. I also made a version that was supposed to launch the player off the cliff, but the only thing it launched was me straight back into programming because somehow it broke everything. Eventually I figured it out and now it actually launches the player instead. After all that, I wanted to add a bit more colors to the world, so I made a waterfall. I made a simple texture, slapped it in between the cliffs, and there it was, a waterfall. The water was flowing upwards and there was this weird seam running through the middle because the texture didn't look properly. After fixing both of these problems and adding some fog particles, I finally had a waterfall that not only looked better, but also made it harder to see what was coming next. To finish everything off, I went back to Blender and made a new base for the canyon, with some cliffs and walls, so there wasn't just empty space around the playable area. It's nothing fancy and definitely not the most optimized thing I've ever made, but it gets the job done. And with that, the canyon update was finally finished. The first section might look a little empty, but there's a reason for that, and I'll save it for another time. The rest of the biome is finally starting to come together. There are new obstacles, moving hazards, and the canyon actually feels like a proper part of the game, instead of just another prototype. So that's it for this update. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, leave a like or subscribe. That would really mean a lot to me. And if you got any ideas, suggestions or tips, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.